Your Denver Broncos just get a wave of fantastic news. An NFL insider says the Broncos are going to be swinging for the fences at the NFL trade deadline. We get updated injury reports for the Broncos and the Texans, which are all making me think that we are running towards that dub. That and way more in this video. If you're new to the channel, I'm a diehard Denver Broncos fan named Ben, and it helps me in the algorithm out a ton if you like the Broncos, if you would smash that like and subscribe button. We know we are going into this Houston game without Pat Surtain, and that is a major letdown. Yet at the same time, we are getting back the biggest dog on this team. The Aqib Talib of this team is coming back, and we were talking about he brings the attitude, he brings the thump. He is, of course, Dre Greenlaw. And he's not only like a leader in how physical he is and how he runs through every play. He hurts himself in practice because he outruns, he tries to run down J.K. Dobbins because he was so upset about getting beat. And he comes out here and again and shows you like how should an NFL player handle himself. The most bogus suspension ever. He gets suspended for one game because of some words he said to a referee when a Detroit Lions player punches a guy in the face on the field on the national camera television, and he gets a one-game suspension. It was bogus. Sean Payton said it was bogus, yet Dre Greenlaw takes accountability. And that just translates to how he acts on the field, right? Like he takes accountability for his actions right here and said, hey, that was a horrible, horrible call in my estimation, but I can't put myself in that type of play. And he is using this as motivation. He said it was super tough last week to watch that Dallas Cowboys game on national TV. It was the national game, Tony Romo calling it. And he's like, he sat and watched that game, and he said, all I can think of is going out there and whipping the Texans' butt. So, yes, you are losing your best player on defense, but I feel like the magnitude of Dre Greenlaw coming back on here to rile up all of our defense is going to be very, very hard to understate. And just, I think he is going to make a difference maker. We just saw, like, in this game that he was first back against the Giants. He was only out there 20 plays, and yet you felt him, and Jackson Dart absolutely felt him, seeing the pressure he got on him. And Jackson Dart's interception later in the game was probably because of the type of hits Dre Greenlaw put on him. And so CJ Stroud is going to want nothing to do with him. Any wide receiver over the middle is going to want nothing to do with him. And I think the Broncos have a fantastic plan in place that we're going to talk about in a second for how to fill in for Pat Surtain over these next couple games. But I think that's phenomenal. And really, we are just full of a locker room here of guys that you want on your team. Like, we aren't like the Kansas City Chiefs where you're like, oh yeah, that one guy is in prison for this, and oh, he'll be back in 7 games. He didn't kill anyone in his DUI. And they excuse it away, right? We have guys that like you can celebrate and you're happy that like Dre Greenlaw is saying, yeah, I can't put my team in that type of position. We have a high character locker room, and it is amazing. And seeing J.K. Dobbins, again, channeling exactly what you want in a Denver Bronco. They were trying to push him on, hey, you played the Houston Texans at the end of last season when the Chargers got absolutely mollywopped by them. Tell us about the Chargers. And he's like, yeah, I don't even really want to talk about that. That was the Chargers. Forget about those guys. I don't even want to talk about that game. J.K. Dobbins wants to be a Bronco, and he wants to be a Bronco for life, and said that exact thing in multiple press conferences back to back. His very first 100-yard game, he's like, yeah, I'm glad you guys are loving me now. My hope is that you just love me still at the end of the year. So kind of hinting at wanting an extension there. And then today in his press conference, he said,
that doesn't cross my mind, but me just wanting to be here in Denver, yes.
So it is incredible that he is going to probably take a hometown discount to play with the Denver Broncos. You look here, even though he does not get the type of carries that a running back number 1 does, he's still the 3rd best running back in football right now. Just like 100 yards behind James Cook, and then 200 yards behind Jonathan Taylor. We don't really even run the ball that much, and we have a 2-headed monster running game with him and the and the AFC Rookie of the Week in RJ Harvey. And so love seeing that he loves to be here and that he is hyped to be here. So then the Broncos also get more good news on the injury report, not only in us being fairly clean, but then in our opponents being fairly dinged up. If you take a look, I was just scrolling through, NFL.com has all of the injuries listed, and it is crazy how one team will fill up your whole injury list. And the Broncos are relatively small here. The biggest bummers are, of course, that we're missing Pat Surtain and that we're missing Marvin Mims. But I'm also wildly hyped about our plan to replace Surtain, because Surtain started his own podcast, which is really good. It's him and Terrion Arnold, who are obviously 2 of the best corners in football. And they had Christian Gonzalez, the cornerback number 1 from the Patriots, on. And it is amazing to me to hear all three of these guys gush about Riley Moss. So while he might not be your favorite cornerback, Riley Moss, he is your favorite corner's favorite corner, because all three of these guys are saying, hey, I don't care what Twitter says about him being bad. They all say that he's an absolute dog, and you can hear it for yourself.
Yeah, he been hooping. Riley hard. Nah, Riley balling, bro.
So, like, go cut up the tape, and you have three of the best in the game right now saying he is playing lights out there, and so you are not whatsoever worried about him in a 3-game stint here without Patrick Surtain, especially when you saw Chris Abrams-Drain last year come in, pick off Justin Herbert. You heard Sean Payton say that the best hands on the team is actually Chris Abrams-Drain. He was a converted wide receiver that he played in high school and a little bit in college, and then learned the cornerback position. So he's just a tremendous asset. I think having Jahdae Barron as well to be able to work into some sets, and then knowing that Vance Joseph is going to scheme for this, I just think the Broncos are in a very, very good situation there. So then the other great news of the day here is seeing here that we are hearing from Albert Breer, who is a very plugged-in NFL reporter. Again, this is not a clickbait journalist who just says wild stuff. He knows what he says and means what he says. And he came out and said he thinks the Denver Broncos are in a position here at the trade deadline to go all in. He talks about how our cap over these next couple of years are fantastic. We have a cash-rich owner who, if you get one of these players at the end of their deal, you could extend them immediately. That we don't have Russell Wilson dead cap. We never have to talk about Russell Wilson dead cap hit again after this year. And so he's saying their cap is in a perfect situation, and it actually reminds him of when the Green Bay Packers went all in on Micah Parsons, that their house was in order because of the Jordan Love deal, and they knew they were just a player away. So to be in that type of comparison from a very plugged-in journalist who knows Sean Payton well, knows the NFL well, so he's like, it would make sense for them to go for Njoku, the tight end from the Browns, who's going to need another deal, or Michael Mayer from the Raiders. But he said, but I also think they could be open to a bigger swing too. So when we are hearing names like Garrett Wilson out of the New York Jets, when you're hearing names like Brian Thomas Jr. from the Jaguars, I just wouldn't close the door on anything for the Broncos, because I do think Sean Payton knows that this is the Super Bowl window with Bo Nix, that just like the Seattle Seahawks did with Russell Wilson, that you compete early in their career when you are getting highway robbery type production out of Bo Nix on that rookie contract. And the amazing thing is that we still have that for these next 4 seasons if we pick up Bo's 5th-year option. So nothing will surprise me at the trade deadline. I think bringing in Mercedes Lewis is great to have a blocking tight end, but I don't think that takes us whatsoever out of the hunt for a potential tight end. And Njoku would make me wildly excited. Hawkinson from the Minnesota Vikings would make me wildly excited. But we will definitely keep an eye on all of that and keep you up to date there. We did see Alex Forsyth's name hop up on the injury report, but he was just limited in practice, so I'm expecting him to definitely be a full go. The big one that I think we need to worry about is Marvin Mims. Him as a homecoming going back to Houston, I want it for him. I want him to be able to ball out in front of all of his family and friends, and then on top of it, he's like wildly productive when he is playing. This graphic right here shows average separation for wide receivers, and you're just seeing that he is literally one of the best in the game at getting open. And that's a huge asset for Bo Nix, and we're going to get up against a tough defense, and so you want a guy who can get this type of separation, and then, other than maybe not laying out for balls when he should have, he doesn't have a drop problem like, some of the receivers on our team. So I want Marvin Mims back, but at this point it's looking very, very questionable. But then on the other side of the ball, you are also seeing that the Houston Texans are dinged up. Their second running back, so their first one is Chubb, who's just got an extensive injury history when he was with the Browns. Their second running back is Woody Marks, and he is limited with a hamstring injury, which is never an injury that you want as a running back. And so that's decent news for us. Obviously, you never wish ill on another team. And then the other thing for them is they also, their tight end, Dalton Schultz, also did not practice today with a knee and shoulder injury. So I think it is kind of a wash on the injury front. And then I do think we have like crazy advantages that everyone's saying that this Texans defense is better than us because of the yards that they're giving up. But truly, the Denver Broncos defense is best when it is in red zone situations, and that we are one of the better red zone defenses, but then we're also one of the better red zone offenses. Like Bo Nix is 6th best red zone quarterback in football right now. And if you add in all of the 2-point conversions, like in that Giants game, You had all of those 2-point conversions that Bo picked up perfectly. And to me, those might as well be counted as red zone stats, but they don't. Like, if in some ways it's even more high stakes than the red zone attempt, because you have one shot at getting that 2-point conversion. So if you added in 2-point conversions, I think the Broncos would be the best red zone offense. And you're looking here, the Texans is the second worst red zone defense. And so I think that is just an absolute mismatch. I love how all that is taken shape here. We have an interview tonight with the Texans creator, but I'm picking the Broncos, guys. I think the Broncos are going to dominate the Houston Texans, and we are on to the Raiders, and we got a ton to believe in. Ooh, 2 in a row.